I would like to introduce Michelle D. Her home group is Queen Bees. Her sobriety date is July 7th, 1978. She is from Kansas. Michelle, passing you the mic. I will see you on the other side.
Thank you. My name is Michelle, and I am an alcoholic, a real alcoholic. Even though at my first meeting, it was a meeting of about 300 people, there were only 10 women in that meeting. And they accused me of being an Al Anon. Oh my God, how could I be an Al Anon? Well, very easy. I need to be an Al Anon too, because I'm married to an alcoholic, recovering alcoholic. And I interact with you guys every day. But I always remember that first and foremost, I am an alcoholic. Like Christy said, my sobriety date is July 7th, 1978, which means that I am 46 years clean and sober. And for that, I am absolutely blessed by my God. And there is no coincidence for that date, because for me, it's a God shot. That date is the day that my first husband, with 2.5 days, beat the shit out of me and left me for dead. And my God has a sense of humor, because today, that is my sobriety date. And for that, I'm grateful. I have all these little God shots. But just for today, I will remember that all my problems start with me. I will remember that without this program, I'm bound for self-destruction. I have to remember not to live in my head and become self-obsessed. I have to remember to keep it simple, stupid, because sometimes I am that stupid. I have to remember to rely on my higher power to have a sense of calm and serenity. I have to remember that the program works if I work it. You can't work it for me. I have to remember that I have to ask God to relieve me from the bondage of self. And I have to use the steps to quell my ego. And the most important for me is that after I took the third step with my sponsor, that my life is none of my business anymore, because I gave it to my God and my reliance is on Him. Now, one of the reasons I give you my sobriety date is I came in when I was 28 years old, and some of you might be 28 years old or younger or older. But I want you to know that sobriety, long-term sobriety, is attainable if you work it. You have to put in the effort. You can't just sit there and get it by osmosis. It doesn't work like that. I tried it like that the first time. See, the first time I came in, I was given an ultimatum by my family. I was either going to go to the nut house or go to treatment. So I chose treatment. I'm alcoholic. I'm not stupid. That I knew that those little men in the white coats would keep me, because if they got inside my head, but that's a scary place. That's the place of self-destruction and self-pity and ego, where I edged God out. But for me, my God has always been there for me. And when I went into treatment, I was there for a couple of days and I went into a coma. I had a temperature of 107.9. See, I'd been living up in the Sierra Nevadas, and I'd gotten Rocky Mountain spotted fever. I don't know how long I was in a coma. They didn't tell me. But when I came out of the coma, the priest was giving me the last rites. And God told me He wasn't finished with me yet. And I don't argue with God. I might yell at Him and be totally pissed off at Him. and scream and rant and rave. But I know that he's always there for me, proving it, because I'm still here no matter what. I didn't work the program like I should have when I got out of treatment. I did everything wrong. They say not to get emotionally involved, and I did, and I got engaged and unengaged, and he committed suicide, and they blamed it on me. And it's not my fault. I'm not taking that on. I went through 6 sponsors in that first year of sobriety. I don't recommend it, but none of them were for me. And one of those sponsors told me I needed to make amends to my family when I went up there for Thanksgiving. And I hadn't done my fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth steps yet. Let me tell you, you don't make amends until you've worked those steps and you know why you're making amends and how you're going to make amends. Because otherwise you're setting yourself up. And I'd set myself up. And my family was ready for me. They had a list of everything I'd ever done wrong in my entire life, and they just gave it to me. But you guys told me that I was worth it and that I didn't have to take that. I didn't have to sit through all that because I was getting well one day at a time, slowly. And you accepted me for myself, 1 minute at a time, unconditionally. So I did what I thought I needed to do, and I called a taxi, and the taxi came and picked me up, didn't even say goodbye to my family. And I was blessed because the taxi driver was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he turned off the meter, and he drove me from Napa, California to San Francisco and took me to the airport. And we went to Southwest Airlines, and the lady behind the counter was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and she made sure that I didn't have to pay for my ticket, change my ticket. And when I got on the plane, the man sitting next to me was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And he listened to me and he prayed with me. And when we got down to Orange County, he took me home to my apartment. We dropped off my luggage and we went down to Laguna Beach Canyon Club for Thanksgiving dinner. I am truly blessed by the people in Alcoholics Anonymous, those angels unaware. You guys are always there and you come out of the woodwork. All I have to do is ask. You know, and I never saw any of those people ever again. But I don't need to because you guys are all here for me every day. Now, I didn't stay sober because I did everything wrong. I dated and dated and dated. And did I want to work the steps? No, I didn't. Because who does? Did I really want to talk to God? No. I didn't want to do what you told me to do. I was self-willed run right. So as a result, one of my favorite sayings is, if you don't change, your sobriety date will. I didn't change, and my sobriety date changed. And I was struck drunk in Palm Springs. Somebody put a drink in front of me, and I had no defense against that drink. I just took it because I didn't have good spiritual condition. I had let all the wrong people lead me. Even though I was going to meetings and, 2, 3 meetings a day, I was just sitting there like a bump on a log, sitting in my rocking chair. Because where I went to meetings, they bought me a rocking chair because I couldn't sit still. And they didn't want me to scare away the newcomers. Now, I don't know about you, but that's how I was when I got here. And I'm still sitting here with my legs shaking and going up and down because that's what I do. That's how I am. Now, I came back on July 7th, and my friends did not allow me to do my hair, put on my makeup. I had to wear somebody else's size 12 jeans and a ratty old red sweatshirt. For me, that was incomprehensible demoralization because, I was supposed to be hip, slick, and cool. And, you know, I wasn't. I was coming off a drunk. My roommate had found me in my closet with a case of tall Budweisers on one knee and my big book on the other. And I couldn't drink anymore and I couldn't get sober. And when I called central office, the woman I hated the most in AA was the one who answered the phone. No coincidences in this program. So my friend April took me to the young people's meeting in Laguna Beach on that Friday night. And I am totally blessed because the speaker that night was a man named Chuck C. He wrote a new pair of glasses. And he came down off the stage and he gave me a hug. Here I am reeking of alcohol coming out of my pores. And he said he didn't care. And he looked in my eyes and he told me I was done. And to me, that was a blessing because he believed that I could get sober. And if he believed I could get sober, I could believe it. When he was finished speaking at the meeting, he came down and sat next to me. He told me that God didn't make junk, but God loved me. And I believed him. A week after that, I went to a meeting in Newport Beach, my normal Thursday night speaker meeting. And in come 6 guys in suits and they're packing and they're checking out the whole building. And you're watching everybody sit up straight in their chairs. Now at the beach, nobody comes in suits. They're especially in the summer, in flip flops and shorts. And you see guys in suits and you're going, oh shit. And then in walks this very cool, calm, and collected lady. And she went and sat in the front row, 1 seat over from me. And when they asked for newcomers, she stood up with less than 30 days. And her name was Betty Ford. And see, I didn't want to be an alcoholic. But if Mrs. Ford, the wife of the president, could be an alcoholic and stand up as a newcomer, I could too. And I could be proud to be an alcoholic. And that changed my life. There's another angel. A few days after that, I went to my normal meeting, was sitting in my rocking chair, and this woman came upstairs and she had this big, huge bag of toys and kites and frisbees and balls and yo-yos and you name it. Everybody thought she was nuts, but she spoke the language of the heart and she was happy and there was joy in her eyes. She invited everybody down to the beach after the meeting and nobody went but me. And I asked her to be my sponsor. And she was my sponsor for 40 years until she died. And I miss her absolutely every single day because she taught me how to live. She taught me how to love. And she included me in her family like I was just one of her kids. And one of the most important things other than working steps with me, was she taught me how to play and not to take my life so seriously. And she laughed all the time. I had to call her 3 times a day. I had to have my shit together before she went to work. And we talked all the time. I never did anything without asking her first. Because my head gets me into trouble. I don't know about you, but my head will lie to me and frequently does because that committee's in there and I can hold meetings in my head without, I don't even have to schedule them. They just start. And our rule was, no emotional involvements, no dates, no nothing for that first year of sobriety. And if anybody wanted to take me out, they had to ask Paulette. And she said no. But after that year, they still had to ask her out. They had to ask her if they could take me out. And the answer was you can take her to a meeting and you can take her to coffee afterwards, but there's nothing else after that. So we're strict about recovery. And when I took my steps, I didn't, step 1, okay, fine. My life is unmanageable. Step 2, insanity. I did not want to be insane. I did not like that word. But one of my favorite books is the Little Red Book. And it tells you about the word insanity. It's when you drink, you do things that you would not normally do. And that's the insane part. And that made it okay for me. And my poor little book here, it's 46 years old and it's falling apart. Because I love that little book. It makes things simple for me, even though it's hazel. Now, I gave lip service to step 3 because I still wanted to hold on. So she said, well, we'll get back to that. And we did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We worked all those steps. Piecemeal, maybe, because I couldn't handle a whole lot at one time because I was a mess. I came home one day and in my apartment was a punching bag and gloves. She put it up there because I was so angry. And on the punching bag, it says, take it out on this instead of taking it out on yourself and others. Another time I came home and there was this gorgeous little box, and inside the box was strips of a costume, Wonder Woman costume. And she said, you are no longer Wonder Woman. You got to keep it simple, girl. And I learned how to keep it simple, and I learned how to stand up for myself. I learned how not to be a doormat in Alcoholics Anonymous. And then push came to shove. And on February 9th, 1980 at 11:52 a.m., and I know the date and the time because that was so important to me. I took the 3rd step with my sponsor because my life was going to hell in a handbasket again. I had one of those life experiences that just knocked you against the wall. And I gave up men and just said, that's it, I'm done. Next day, I went down to Laguna Beach to my Sunday afternoon meeting that I went to, 11th step meeting, which is my absolute favorite step. And after the meeting, this guy came up to me to try to fix me. And he had long hair, jeans, a beard, and he drove a truck. Not my style, because I only went out with 3-piece suits. He asked me what meetings I went to, and I told him, and he showed up the next week at my 11th step meeting in Sunset Beach. Then he took me to the Laguna Beach meeting the next day, and I never left. He asked me to marry him in April. Fast courtship. What when you know, you know. And I said, you got to ask my sponsor. And if she says no, you're out of here. So he was brave and he asked Paulette if he could marry me. Plus, she had called everybody from the home group. So there were a whole hell of a lot of people there. So we asked them all. And they said yes. And we got married on his second AA birthday so he wouldn't forget. That's my sponsor's idea. We have now been married in Alcoholics Anonymous for 44 years. I want to see normie people do that. But we have a rule. He can't tell me how to work my program. I can't tell him how to work his program. All he can do is say, go talk to God, call your sponsor, go to a meeting. That's it. That's the only thing I can tell him to. And God blessed us with having a daughter. I was 3.5 years sober. And she was born on February 9th, 1982 at 11:52 a.m. Exactly 2 years to the day that I took my third step with my sponsor. And at the same exact time, that's a God shot. You can't tell me it isn't. And it was scary because they had brought a helicopter from UCLA because they thought that she wasn't going to make it. But, God had other ideas. And he takes care of these fools like me. Now, that baby went to her first meeting at 8 days old, and she got passed around. And they had bought fans to make sure that they blowed the smoke away from her because she was an AA baby and they wanted to take care of her. And when she was 6 weeks old, we moved to Kansas because my husband had gotten a job in a treatment center in Kansas. And I was like, what the hell am I doing here? What's this surfer hippie chick born in Hollywood doing in this little itty town in Kansas? Well, it says in the big book that you can get sober no matter anything as long as you clean house. Trust God. So I cleaned house and trusted God, and I've been sober in Kansas no matter what, even though they got some of the most boring meetings I've ever been to in my entire life. Because I was used to going to the Pacific group where everybody hooted and hollered and yelled, because AA is the only place where you can get applause for being an alcoholic. People clap for you in AA in California. They hoot and holler and say, we are so glad you're here. And in Kansas, it was like, sit down, shut up, and listen. We are serious. But, the book says we are not a glum lot. And I was like, come on. So God in his infinite wisdom has changed our lives. Now, when I was 40 years old, I think I was about 10 or 12 years sober, I decided to go back to school. And I went to 3 colleges. And one was too expensive. The other one said, you're 40 years old. You will never finish. You won't make it. Another one said, oh, let's just try one class. See how you do. You don't tell this alcoholic that you will never finish. Well, God moved us back to my husband's hometown. I dropped my daughter off at school. I went to the junior college, signed up, started the next day, and 2 years later, I finished my degree. And I started teaching. I did not get the job that I wanted, but I got the job that I needed and that God decided was the best for me. And I taught art for 3 years there. And then I taught third grade for 15, and then God moved me. But during that time, You know, I was privileged to teach children that had nothing, absolutely nothing. And they didn't speak English, and I didn't care, and I loved them, and they loved me. And they voted for me 2 years in a row to be Teacher of the Year. And I was up for Crystal Apple Teacher 6 times. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Before I got sober, I couldn't do anything right for anybody. But in sobriety, after working the steps and going to meetings, talking to my sponsor, relying on you, other people believed in me and they trusted me, and I was able to give back. Now, God moved me to where we live now, where my daughter is at. I have 2 little grandsons now, and I'm totally blessed. I'm totally blessed. My one grandson called me last week and said, Grammy, I need to make dinner with you for Thanksgiving. So on Wednesday, he's going to come and help me make cheesecakes. He's never made a cheesecake before, so I'm going to teach him. And then on Thursday, he's going to help me with the turkey. I never thought I would have that. But because of you and going to meetings and more meetings and more meetings, I have never given up. And you have helped me have a life that is beyond my understanding. You have helped me release myself from the bondage of self and not take myself so seriously. Today I talked to my God. Because when I asked Chuck, see, how do you talk to God? How do you pray? And he goes, you just start talking. And that's what I do. I write letters to God. I don't sign them because I'm not stupid. Those little men in the white coats, I do not want them to come get me. But I put a stamp on the envelope, and I go to the post office and I mail them. That's how I pray. I'm a glass artist today, and I do glass mosaics. And when I'm doing those mosaics, that's when I have my meditation time. That's when I'm talking to God, and that's when I'm listening. Because prayer is the talking and the meditation is the listening. And I'm sitting in God's hand all the time because my God is important to me and I rely on him today. I do not rely on me because I know that I am absolutely nuts. And without God's help, I will stay that way. But if you look at the guy sitting down there in the basement and it looks like he's got a padded cell, that's my husband. And God, in his infinite wisdom, told me that I couldn't run away anymore, that he was going to be the best thing for me, and he has. He has accepted me one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, for however I am on any given day, just like you do. And today I thank you for being here and helping me stay sober one day at a time. Because without you, I am absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if you are new, this is the best last place on the block. And for me, I take the responsibility statement seriously. I am responsible when anyone anywhere reaches out for help. I want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that, I am responsible. If you need me, I will be there. I don't care what time of day it is or night. Those people who know me know that I go to meetings 4 o'clock in the morning. Go to meetings, meetings, and more meetings. So I'm glad to be here and glad to be sober. And I want to thank Christy for asking me to be of service today. And I want to thank you guys for saving my ass and helping me stay sober. Thanks.